Here's the cold truth no one wants to admit. The man who cares less holds all the power. In every room, in every relationship, in every social dynamic, there's one constant. The person who's least emotionally invested controls the tempo. The man who can walk away owns everything. His presence is felt without effort. His silence speaks louder than 1,000 compliments. And women, they don't run from it. They gravitate toward it, obsess over it, chase it. Because detachment doesn't kill attraction, it fuels it. This isn't about emotional shutdown. This is about psychological elevation. It's the discipline to not react, the strength to not explain, and the self-respect to not chase. The detached man isn't cold, he's calculating, he isn't heartless, he's unreadable. And that unreadability, that's where his magnetic aura begins. You're about to learn why detachment is not weakness, it's warfare. And the man who masters it doesn't beg for attention, he commands it. We say a warm thank you to everyone. This channel is not for those who are afraid of leaving their comfort zones. If you're tired of being a walkover, feeling little about yourself, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button now. Kindly share, like, and comment for others to be saved. Subscribe if you're ready to stop chasing women and start attracting them by mastering the one thing they can't resist. Unshakable emotional detachment. First, you need to understand the psychology of detachment. Know this, Machiavelli would explain, detachment is not indifference. It's not apathy. It's not giving up. It's power, refined. True detachment is emotional mastery. It's when your inner state is no longer dictated by the external world, especially by the unpredictable winds of a woman's moods, tests, or approval. You see, women aren't attracted to predictability. They're biologically drawn to the unknown, to the challenge, to the man they can't quite figure out. From an evolutionary standpoint, women are hardwired to seek men with superior genes, status, and emotional resilience. But in a modern world where most men are emotionally fragile, the man who appears centered, calm, and unattached becomes a symbol of something rare: power. This is why they chase detachment, even if they claim to hate it. Neediness is exposure. It signals weakness. It screams, "You matter more to me than I do to myself." And that imbalance instantly kills the dynamic. But detachment, it creates tension. It forces her to confront a mystery, and that mystery becomes a puzzle she feels compelled to solve. Because women don't want to control a man, they want to feel his gravity. When you detach, you no longer orbit her. She starts orbiting you. Let's break it down. Neediness is reactive. You respond to her cold texts, her games, her mood swings. Detachment is proactive. You don't flinch, you remain still. You make her question her impact on you. That uncertainty becomes attraction, that calmness becomes dominance. Because detachment makes you unreadable. And what can't be read can't be predicted. And what can't be predicted becomes exciting. Women may not admit it, but they test for this, constantly. They push, they provoke, they challenge, not because they want to destroy you, but because they want to feel you're unshakable. And most men fail. They fold under pressure, over-explain themselves, become emotional wrecks. But the detached man, he doesn't respond to chaos. He watches it. He doesn't explain himself. He lets silence deliver the message. And it drives her mad, in the way that makes her crave more. Frame this truth in your mind. Emotions make you readable. Detachment makes you irresistible. You're not here to be emotionally manipulated. You're here to be the stillness she's drawn to, the grounded presence she can't shake, the quiet storm that never chases yet always commands. Secondly, there is hidden power in being non-reactive. This is what Machiavelli calls the silent power of non-reactivity. The most magnetic men don't speak much. They don't argue, they don't explain, they simply observe. And that silence drives women insane. Why? Because silence creates tension. And tension, when held with confidence, is seductive. Women test men for emotional strength. Constantly. Sometimes it's obvious, a jealous comment, a sarcastic jab, a delayed reply. Other times it's subtle. A shift in tone, a withdrawal of affection, a sudden cold shoulder. But the intent is always the same, to see if you'll break, to see if she can move you emotionally, because the man who can be moved can be controlled. And here's the secret. Most men fail these tests because they react. They get defensive. They chase clarification. They try to fix the discomfort. But the detached man? He leans back. He watches the test unfold like a storm in the distance, untouched by the chaos. He understands that the test is never about the surface issue. It's about power. And power is held by the one who stays silent. Non-reactivity is not weakness. It's supreme control. The reactive man says, I need your approval, your comfort, your validation. The non-reactive man says nothing, because he doesn't need anything from her. And that shakes her to her core. You see, when a man doesn't flinch under pressure, when he maintains his emotional frame in the face of drama, it triggers a primitive realization in her. This man cannot be moved. Therefore, he is strong. Therefore, I feel safe and drawn. This is the paradox of female psychology. She'll create emotional storms just to see if your walls hold. And when they do, she feels deeper desire than words can explain. Because silence isn't absence, it's presence. It's the presence of a man who doesn't argue to be understood. He's already whole. He doesn't need validation. Even your tone of voice matters. Speak slowly. Let silence sit between sentences. Hold eye contact longer than comfort allows. That stillness, that calm tension, it makes her heart race. Because you're showing her a power most men don't possess. Self-control. Frame this truth in your mind. He who reacts loses control. He who observes owns it. This is why emotional detachment isn't weakness. It's the highest form of masculine discipline. You don't flinch, you don't chase, you don't need. And in that cold silence, she finds a fire she can't put out. Thirdly, scarcity creates value. If she knows you'll always answer, if she knows you'll always be there, if she knows she already has you, she stops feeling anything at all. Scarcity creates value. This is a principle that governs everything rare and desirable in life. Gold, time, beauty, and yes, attention. You've been told that showing more love wins her over. But the truth? The more freely you give your attention, the cheaper it becomes. And cheap attention never sparks obsession. Detachment flips this dynamic on its head. When you become emotionally self-contained, you become scarce. Not because you're playing games, but because your attention now has standards. You don't reply instantly. Not out of ego, but because you're not always available. You don't entertain every emotional spike, because your energy is reserved for peace, not chaos. You don't over-explain, over-pursue, or overstay, because your time is valuable, and she can feel that. The more selective you are, the more powerful you become in her mind. Women are not attracted to abundance of effort. They're attracted to significance of impact. And nothing creates impact like space. Give her space to feel your absence. That's when the fantasies begin. That's when she starts overthinking. That's when she begins to assign meaning to your silence. You didn't reply in 2 hours? She doesn't think you're busy. She wonders who has your attention now. You didn't chase her after an argument? She doesn't think you're cold. She starts questioning if she ever really had you. This is the weapon of scarcity. You allow her mind to fill in the blanks. And what her mind creates will always be more intoxicating than any words you could have said. Here's the hard truth. If your presence is always guaranteed, your absence holds no weight. But if your energy is rare, every moment with you feels like a privilege. So stop giving away your time, your validation, your presence so cheaply. Every time you respond too quickly, every time you make yourself too available, you're silently communicating, I have nothing more valuable to do. That kills your mystery. It murders your dominance. And it strips you of the one thing women crave most in a man, self-possession. Remember, make her chase your presence by protecting it. When she realizes your time is not up for auction, she'll bid everything just to feel seen by you again. But then it would be too late. Detachment is the ultimate frame control. In every interaction, romantic or not, there's a silent battle for dominance. Not physical, not verbal, but psychological. That battle is called frame control. And the man who wins dictates the reality the other person steps into. Women are masters of testing your frame. They'll tease you, provoke you, ignore you, not because they're cruel, but because they're wired to look for a man whose world they can enter, not one who abandons his world to chase hers. This is where detachment becomes your ultimate weapon. A needy man breaks frame constantly. She ignores him. He explains. She pulls back. He chases. She questions him. He defends. But a detached man? He doesn't just hold frame. He becomes the frame. He doesn't flinch when she tests him. He doesn't overcompensate to win her approval. He doesn't argue to be understood because he doesn't need to be. Why? Because his sense of self isn't tied to her reaction, and that makes him untouchable. Understand this. Women don't want a man they can emotionally lead. They want a man they can emotionally surrender to. But surrender is only possible when the man's frame is stronger than her emotional storms. The detached man is calm during chaos, unbothered by silence, and comfortable with being misunderstood. Because he doesn't seek comfort, he is comfort. That's why detachment isn't apathy, it's leadership. Leadership over your own reactions, your own values, your own direction. And that leadership is magnetic. Women instinctively gravitate toward a man who doesn't get pulled into their emotional waves. Why? Because it signals security. And in a world full of impulsive men desperate for attention, security becomes rare and irresistible. Let's be clear. The woman may cry louder, she may act bolder, but if you stay centered, if you hold frame through the chaos, you win. You win not through force, but through stillness. Frame control is not about controlling her. It's about refusing to let her control you. Because the moment you react, the moment you bend, the moment you try to prove yourself, you've already submitted. You've stepped into her world. And that's not where kings belong. So remember, she can't manipulate a man who doesn't crave her validation. Detach not to distance yourself from her, but to anchor yourself in you. Because when she steps into your world and finds you calm, grounded, immovable, she doesn't just follow, she submits. The arsenal you deploy next will seal everything. And that is the aura she feels but can't explain. You've seen it before. A man walks into a room, he says almost nothing, he doesn't try, he doesn't chase, but somehow everyone feels him. Especially women, not because of what he does, but because of what he doesn't do. This is the aura of detachment, an energy that speaks louder than words. It's silent, it's heavy, it's unmistakable, and it's felt, not understood. Women call it mysterious. They say there's just something about him. They can't name it, but they can't forget it either. That something is the void effect. It's the magnetic pull of a man who reveals little and needs nothing. See, the average man fills every silence with talking. He overshares, overcompliments, overtries. But the detached man, he's comfortable in the pause. He lets silence work for him because silence creates tension, and tension creates desire. His eye contact is calm, direct, unblinking. Not aggressive, not timid, just present. No approval seeking. No hidden agenda. His voice is low and measured. Not because he's trying to sound cool, but because he's not emotionally spiking. No excitement, no nervousness, just control. And women feel that control. They feel that absence of need, that refusal to dance just because they snap their fingers. It disorients them. Why? Because most men broadcast their feelings, their interest, their attraction, their desperation, it's all on display. But this man, he's hard to read, hard to impress. Hard to move, and that mystery makes her imagination go wild. She starts asking questions in her head. What's he thinking? Why isn't he reacting? Is he into me or not? That uncertainty creates emotional investment. Understand this. Women don't obsess over what's obvious. They obsess over what's ambiguous. The moment you give her everything up front, the chase dies. But the moment you give her just enough to question, she starts chasing answers. And it's not about being manipulative, it's about being anchored. Because the truth is, the detached man doesn't withhold to create a reaction. He withholds because he's full without her. And that fullness, the inner silence, the self-sufficiency, the grounded presence, it radiates from him like a scent she can't explain. She feels it when he looks at her like he's not impressed. She feels it when he doesn't flinch under pressure. She feels it when he's not trying to convince or convert, but simply exists. That's the aura. Not loud, not flashy, but unforgettable. Because in a world of men trying to be seen, he stands out by disappearing. The less you give, the more she imagines. You must also know this. Detachment doesn't mean loneliness. It means mastery. Let's kill the lie right now. Detachment is not loneliness. It's not bitterness. It's not emotional shutdown. It's power. Because true detachment isn't about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about no longer letting the world control your inner state. Most men are terrified of being alone. So they cling, they chase, they settle for chaos just to avoid silence. But the detached man, he chooses solitude. Not because he's weak, but because he's complete. He doesn't need the noise. He doesn't need the validation. He doesn't need the drama of emotional entanglement just to feel significant. And that choice, that deliberate separation from chaos, is what makes him magnetic. Because women can sense when a man is with her out of choice, not desperation. They feel the difference. One man texts her back instantly because he's afraid of losing her. Another man responds hours later because he's building, thinking, evolving, living. Which one does she respect? It's not the availability that attracts her. It's the independence. Detached men don't orbit around a woman's attention. They don't anchor their happiness to her responses. They live at the center of their own world and invite her in if she earns it. They don't isolate to escape love. They detach to master it. They understand. You can't lead in relationships if you're emotionally enslaved. You can't seduce with strength if you're addicted to approval. So they build solitude like a fortress, not to keep people out, but to keep their minds sharp, their mission clear, their soul intact. And in that solitude, they become the prize. Because while other men are busy proving their worth, he's refining it. He doesn't chase chaos, he doesn't chase peace, he becomes peace. And when a man becomes peace, every storm wants to be near him. You don't isolate to escape love, you detach to master it. And here's the final truth, you were never meant to chase. Here's the final truth, brutal and unfiltered, you were never meant to chase. Not women, not attention, not validation. Because masculine energy doesn't pursue, it attracts. You've been lied to. You were told to try harder, show her you care, prove you're good enough. But in doing that, you lost the game before it even started. Because women don't chase the man who chases them. They chase the man who doesn't move. The man who remains still, grounded, unmoved by emotional waves. Why? Because that stillness radiates certainty. And certainty is what the feminine craves most. You become irresistible, not by showing how much you want her, but by showing how little you need her. Not with words, but with your energy. No man radiates power while chasing. Power sits, power waits, power pulls. Look around. The most desired men are never the loudest, the neediest, or the most available. They're calm, mysterious, rooted. They let the world orbit around them. They don't spin out of control trying to gain approval. This is the magnetic aura of the detached man. He doesn't beg, he doesn't rush, he doesn't fear loss. He knows what he brings, he knows what he builds, and he knows the only thing worth chasing is mastery over himself. So he walks slow, speaks less, and moves only when it's strategic. They're drawn to your silence, your control, your mystery, not your effort. Let other men drown in effort. Let them burn themselves out trying to win her heart with performance. You stand still. You hold your line. You remain unbothered. And that right there is the paradox that enslaves her mind. Because the moment she realizes you're not chasing her is the moment she starts chasing you. This wasn't dating advice. It was psychological warfare. You've just seen why the detached man doesn't pursue. He positions. He doesn't perform, he reigns. And in a world drowning in emotional noise, his silence becomes a weapon. If you're done chasing, if you're ready to build a presence so magnetic it bends desire around you, subscribe now, because what comes next isn't for the emotional, it's for the cold, the calm, the calculating. For the men who don't want to be liked, they want to be remembered, desired, chased, be unreadable, be untouchable. Be the storm they never see coming.